Hey guys, this is a reaction video to Jake Brill. He's one of my favorite YouTube creators, especially on what's happening in the world with current events, namely Russia attacking Ukraine. And now, because of what's happening in the world, he just put out a video entitled Russia Needs Distraction, and it's worked because most of the world is now talking about what's happened in Gaza and what happened in Israel. And I was really happy to see Jake put out a video explaining what happened with Gaza and Hamas invading Israel, because actually a friend of mine who's staying with me this week, she was asking, is there a video that kind of just breaks down the whole situation? Unfortunately, that video has been demonetized by Jake, and he can't upload it to his platform without getting hit by a 18+ restriction. And it's not just about the money, it's about messing up the algorithm, not being able to upload future videos without getting hit by these restrictions and checks that really mess up your channel, to be honest. So I decided, you know what, this information needs to be out there, so I'm gonna take the risk of putting this out as a reaction video with hopefully with Jake's approval. I've already messaged him saying I'm going to do it, and I'll take it down if he messages me back saying he doesn't want it out there for whatever reason. But assuming it's okay, I'm going to make this reaction video, play his video in full, and react to it so you can have this information.
Welcome back, Defenders. Jake here. The world has changed a lot in the last couple days. We have to talk about the war in Israel because it's now deeply connected to the war in Ukraine. Hamas launches unprecedented surprise attack on Israel. This occurred on October 7th, so the war in Israel has now been going on for 5 days. Here's a map of the Gaza Strip. This is the Egyptian border. And over here is Israeli-controlled territory. And this was a massive intelligence failure from the Israelis. They were not prepared. They did not see this coming. More than likely, Hamas has spent years planning and preparing for this coordinated attack, saving up ammunition, saving up rockets. On October 7th, all the checkpoints to the Gaza Strip were overrun. Hamas cut through the fences. They used paragliding equipment to get over the walls. And the goal of these thousands of Hamas terrorists was mass casualties. As many Israeli civilians as possible, not distinguishing between civilian and military. The pictures and videos online are absolutely horrifying. As of this morning, Israel states that the death toll is 1,200 of their citizens, along with 3,000 being injured and an estimated 150 being abducted by Hamas and taken back to the Gaza Strip. It's worth mentioning that a lot of these Israeli citizens are also dual citizens. They're also Americans, they're also Germans, they're also Russians. Hamas doesn't care. They want to kill absolutely everyone. So if you go online, you will see the pictures, you will see the videos. It is horrifying. Hamas is deliberately documenting everything because they want to show it to the world.
All right, I know this is supposed to be a reaction video, so here's me reacting. This is a really, really good kind of fight against this Twitter propaganda on why have we seen more footage in Israel in the last 48 hours than we have for the last 2 years in Ukraine. I think it was spread by Donald Trump Jr. and a bunch of other, these pro-MAGA guys. I don't know why. And if you do a search for that term on Twitter, you'll see like literally thousands of people, bots, and what's worse are people who have the brain cells of a bot that just kind of like regurgitate these talking points that are spread by either Russia, Russian propaganda, paid propagandists, or worse, people who are getting paid, like literally just getting paid by Russia to spread this stuff. But also, the reason why we haven't seen as much footage is because it's a different war. Like, Russian soldiers are not filming them executing people as much. I mean, they have a few times with like the sledgehammer to the head and things like that, but in general, they're not like, it's not their style to film like them, like, you know, committing war crimes. But the terrorists, that's their style. That's for whatever reason, that's kind of a thing that they do in the Middle East. When they commit terrorism, they like to show it off. They like to make videos. They're not thinking ahead about, you know, the Hague war crimes. They want to show it off. Secondly, this is a very different type of war and invasion. Most of the attacks in Ukraine are through long-range artillery, missiles, and things like that. And at the end of the day, Ukraine is the most well-documented war in the history of mankind. There's entire documentaries about it. Go watch 20 Days in Mariupol. You can see literally the first 20 days of war, of Russians coming in. There's plenty of information. Like, it's insane that this is a talking point.
They want to publish these pictures and videos of their terrorism. So here's a clip I can share with you that doesn't show any bodies, but this is a journalist on the ground after Israel regained control of their territory.
We are moving in right now. There are bodies everywhere. The ground is burned. There are crashed cars. You can see in the bus station the clothes of the people taken by the terrorists. Right across the street, a completely destroyed house. You can see around me cars parked, absolutely destroyed. Right behind me there is the breach in the fence from which the terrorists came through. The terrorists came into the village and burnt down everything in sight. Trucks used to get supplies to the people who live here. This is a house that was completely burnt down by terrorists. There's a siren that sounded right now. We're taking cover. There's been a night.
Horrifying. The stories are coming out of the people who have been abducted by Hamas and taken back to the Gaza Strip. Just to put a face on this tragedy, this woman, her name is Noah. She was attending a peace music festival near the Gaza Strip when Hamas attacked this festival. Her fate is unknown. And the brutality is indescribable. I don't know how to talk about this, guys. There are pictures and videos of a German woman who went to Israel to attend this peace concert, and she ended up in the back of a truck, raped and murdered by Hamas, who filmed it with pride and posted it on the internet. It gets worse. There are pictures and videos of Hamas killing animals, killing pet dogs. I'll link this clip down below if you want to see it for yourself, but they entered this kibbutz and slaughtered absolutely everyone and everything, and then burned down all the houses. Kfar Aza smells of death inside the Israeli border village where babies were slaughtered in Hamas's attack. I mean, this is contention for the most evil thing ever done, but I'm going to play a little bit of this clip. It's 3 minutes long. I'll link it down below.
David, it's hard to even explain exactly just the mass casualties that happened right here.
Unspeakable evil. Bodies of 40 children have been found in this settlement. So, I'm going to be honest with you guys. In the past, I have been critical of Israel and their policy towards the Palestinian people. And the reason why is because Israel has all the power and control. The West Bank and the Gaza Strip, these are occupied territories. The Palestinians don't have their own country. So when you have all the power, you have all the responsibility. When you have all the responsibility, you get all the blame. That has been Israel's reputation for my entire life. But given the atrocities that I've seen from the Palestinians, from Hamas, there's no debate. I am 100% in support of Israel and agree they have to do everything they have to do to get their people back and to prevent such an attack in the future.
I'm with Jake on this. If you don't understand the situation clearly, it's crazy that in politics, people don't like this term called flip-flopping or changing your mind, or changing your mind based on current events or what's happening. I think it's a very strange thing where people take pride in having one hard stance, a firm stance, and having it for their entire life, or their entire career as a politician. It's stupid. When things change, and your opinion needs to change as well. So, for example, before February 24th, 2022, before Russia invaded Ukraine, it was okay to have a different opinion of Russia. You can think, you know what, Russia is, they have some legitimate claims, let's try to work with them. But as soon as they invade, then things go out the door and say no. Like now they've actually committed acts of terrorism, they've actually started a war, things completely change. Same thing that happened with Hamas and terrorism. Prior to October 2023, you can say, yeah, Israel is at fault for illegally encroaching and settling in places like the West Bank, which is not their territory. They've just been putting their settlers in there. They can claim that historically Israelis lived there thousands of years ago. I can also claim that historically my ancestors, Mongolians, were living in basically all of Europe, right? So it's a stupid claim. It doesn't mean anything. Like, it doesn't matter what happened hundreds or thousands of years ago. What matters is international boundaries and borders today. And if you don't think they're fair, there's ways to battle that politically without starting an invasion and committing terrorist attacks, which is what the Hamas did, which is what Palestinians in Gaza did. And you can argue that that's not the will of all Palestinians. At the same time, you can argue that you see Palestinians celebrating these Hamas attacks. So now it's terrible. Things have changed since October 2023 when the Hamas have attacked Israel. Now Israel really is the victim. Whether they should have done something differently in the past or not, that's a different argument. But for those who are still free Palestine, pro-Palestine, you have to understand that terrorism is not the answer.
These are pictures of Israeli kids and babies kidnapped by Hamas, taken back to the Gaza Strip, being used as hostages. To what end? So that's the million-dollar question. Israel has a far superior military capability. So what is the goal of Palestine? What is the goal of Hamas? And it's to inspire jihad around the world, to have Arabs and Muslims attack Israel in any capacity possible. And this is what's happening all over the world with protests and demonstrations in support of Hamas. So this is what Jordan looked like a couple nights ago. So this is Jordan. This is a Muslim country. This is not surprising. But what's surprising is the pro-Hamas protests and rallies occurring in democracies, in Western countries. This is a pro-Hamas rally happening in central Madrid. So at this Hamas rally, they're flying the Soviet flag. They see Russia and the old Soviet Empire as their ally. It gets worse. This is Sydney, Australia, the Sydney Opera House, a pro-Hamas rally, in which the crowd is chanting, "Gas the Jews." There's just so much hate. And the concern is that other state actors, other countries will become involved. The most likely one is Hezbollah in Lebanon. The Israeli Defense Force has already struck at Hezbollah after a couple rockets fired over the border. Lebanon is not doing that great. They're not a great military power, but The whole point of what Hamas is trying to do is to rally everyone, inspire everyone, jihad fighters from across the Muslim world to somehow get to Israel's borders and kill everyone. That's their goal. That's their objective. Every man, woman, and child who's an Israeli citizen to be annihilated. Now, I don't think Egypt is going to get involved. Saudi Arabia is not going to get involved. Jordan can't do anything. So the biggest threat to global security is Iran. The people militarily allied with Russia, supplying rockets and drones and artillery to the Russians so they can wage war against Ukraine. So here is the Ayatollah posting on Twitter, "Heads of the Zionist regime and their backers should know that the massacre and mass murder of the people of Gaza will cause a larger calamity to come upon them." And the state of Israel responded to the Ayatollah, stating, "It's easy to be brave when you're hiding behind a keyboard. You and your Hamas friends will regret your barbaric actions very soon." So my personal opinion is that the Iranians are cowards. They like fighting these wars with proxies, supplying money, supplying weapons to Russia, to Hezbollah, to Hamas. So at this time, I don't think Iran is going to get directly involved, because if they do, they're going to get annihilated by the United States. The United States is a military ally of Israel. We are duty-bound to defend them. If a nation-state such as Iran directly got involved, then yes, the United States would respond and defend Israel. So this is the supercarrier, the USS Gerald Ford, 100,000 tons of pure democracy with a 5,000 crew handling. This is a floating city accompanied by a supercarrier group, so there's lots of other ships and submarines and aircraft that accompanies it. And the USS Gerald Ford was in the Western Mediterranean. As soon as hostilities broke out on October 7th, they turned and headed for the Eastern Mediterranean. They're now sitting off the coast of Israel. And the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower, another supercarrier group, they're also deploying to the Eastern Mediterranean. So within probably this week, there will be 2 aircraft carriers off the coast of Israel to help deter Iran and offer support. So Israel has declared a state of war, the first time in 50 years. But this is a response. Hamas was the first to declare a state of war by flowing over the border and butchering civilians. So here's Prime Minister Netanyahu. I'm not the biggest fan of this guy, but in a period of war, you go to war with the leaders you got. And here is the Prime Minister addressing his people.
Israel is at war. We didn't want this war. It was forced upon us in the most brutal and savage way. But though Israel didn't start this war, Israel will finish it. Once the Jewish people were stateless. Once the Jewish people were defenseless. No longer. Hamas will understand that by attacking us, they've...
So Hamas started this war, and Israel is going to finish it. Whatever Hamas was hoping to accomplish, they have no chance of success. Israel is going to annihilate them. Full might of Israel lays siege to Gaza as battles with Hamas rage on. Medics in Gaza warn of catastrophic consequences of water, power, food, and fuel being blocked for the 2 million civilians of the Gaza Strip. So this is a full embargo. Israel is not allowing water, food, power, or fuel into the Gaza Strip for these 2 million people. And people are going to debate, how ethical is this? But if you're at war with someone, Hamas declared war on Israel, you don't supply your enemy with water, power, food, and fuel. If the civilians need to get out, they need to get out through the Egyptian border. If Hamas is concerned for the safety and lives of their people, then they can surrender. They can release the hostages, they can unconditionally surrender to Israel, and then water, power, food, and fuel can resume to the Gaza Strip to once again provide for the Palestinian civilians. And the Gaza Strip is being destroyed right now. Israel has a very powerful air force, and Hamas does not have air defense systems. So yes, there's going to be a lot of shocking videos online of entire city blocks within the Gaza Strip collapsing. And the reason why they're collapsing is because these are where the rockets are coming from. Anytime we see rockets being launched from Hamas, from an apartment building, yes, Israel is going to level that entire apartment building. That's where the rockets are coming from. If Hamas chooses to fire rockets at Israel where civilians are located, this is horrible, but yes, Hamas is the one choosing to continue this fight. And this is what the tunnels look like. If you want to see it for yourself, Hamas has been spending decades building this network of tunnels, and they store the rockets underground in the tunnels. We have a video of it. They're proud of this. This is what they've been doing with their time in the last couple years. Now, these rockets more than likely are coming from Iran. Hamas doesn't have the technical capability to build their own rockets. So Iran is manufacturing them. Iran is shipping them to Egypt. People sympathetic to Hamas in Egypt are then smuggling them through tunnels under the border into the Gaza Strip. So if there's a tunnel network getting weapons in, then there's a tunnel network that can get civilians, women and children, out of the Gaza Strip. My advice for the Palestinian people, for Hamas, use your tunnels to get civilians out. But something tells me Hamas is not going to do that. So Hamas has taken to television stating that they're open to negotiations. They're open to a ceasefire. Here's a statement they made on Al Jazeera TV.
To put an end to this, from this moment on, we announce that any targeting of innocent civilians without warning will be met, regretfully to say, by executing one of the hostages in our custody. And we will be forced to broadcast this execution. We regret this to put.
So Hamas is saying that they have a couple hundred Israeli citizens in their custody, and if Israel doesn't stop attacking them, then they're going to start cutting their heads off on camera for the internet. Wow.
All right, there's a lot to unpack in that last segment, but it's a good reminder that Iran is just as guilty in this attack as the Palestinians and Hamas, because without Iranian weapons, they wouldn't have been able to do any of this. And who is funding the Iranian weapons? It's Russia. Russia has a really good and close relationship with the leaders of Iran. And I know some people are going to blame Biden for releasing $6 billion to the Iranians and say, you know, it's Biden's fault, it's USA's fault. Well, I mean, first off, they're going to blame Biden for everything. But that money was first off released like a few months ago, and this has been building for years. So Russia's been giving money to Iran for years and years and years. Secondly, that money is earmarked only for humanitarian aid. I'm still against it. I don't think that the U.S. should ever negotiate with terrorists, especially people who kidnap others and use that as a bargaining chip, because that just encourages more U.S. civilians or U.S. citizens of being kidnapped in the future, knowing that they can potentially be traded for money. I think that was a terrible decision. I'll call out a spade by spade. Unlike most people who, they're either pro Republican or pro Democrat, they'll never change their mind. Their guy is perfect. The people who like Biden, they'll say whatever Biden does is perfect. The people who don't like Biden will say everything he does is terrible. But the reality is politics, even though you get very little traction doing this, you need to be in the middle. You need to pick everything case by case and know what is correct in that time, what is not. Unfortunately, it was a mistake to release this funding to Iran. At the same time, it had nothing to do with the weapons that had been smuggling in from Iran that are bought with Russian money for the past years.
So this war between Israel and Hamas isn't going to last very long. 2 million people without food, water, electricity, and fuel. It's going to get ugly, but it's not going to last very long. So how does this all tie in and relate to Ukraine? President Zelensky is of Jewish heritage. He and the Ukrainian people have come out in strong support of Israel. Horrible news from Israel. My condolences go out to everyone who's lost relatives or close ones in the terrorist attack. We have faith that order will be restored and the terrorists will be defeated. So here's the connection. Russia shoots pets. Hamas shoots pets. Russia loots civilian homes. Hamas loots civilian homes. Russia rapes women. Hamas rapes women. Russia steals kids. Hamas steals kids. Russia beheads prisoners of war, and Hamas beheads everyone. So this war between Israel and Hamas, this is something that the Kremlin wants. They want a distraction. They want the media attention being taken off of Russia and Ukraine and directed to anywhere else in the world. Russia interested in inciting war in the Middle East, according to President Zelensky. And this isn't a secret. Israel-Hamas war pulls Russians' attention away from Ukraine. Observers have called the attack, which the Palestinian military group launched on Russian President Putin's birthday, Hamas's gift to Vladimir Putin, as it threatened to pull Western attention and support away from Ukraine towards Israel. So this is the kind of stuff they're saying on Kremlin State TV. Let me read this clip for you. I will try to look at all these events in a military way, a bit cynically, from the side of a Russian officer. He then says, without beating around the bush, whose ally is Israel? The United States of America. Whose ally is Iran and its surrounding Muslim world? Ours. We have our own goal and objectives, which our president brilliantly defined at the discussion club. So the Russians are proud of what Iran and Hamas is doing in Israel. Because Israel has close ties to the United States, Russia's saying, we're not going to condemn these attacks. They have people on television saying, it's a good thing. The Muslim world stands with Russia. The Muslim world supports Russia's claims in Ukraine. So this is the fear. This is the ultimate fear that Israel has been trying to avoid for the last 20 months. People have asked, why has Israel not expressed stronger support for Ukraine? And the answer is repression or retaliation against the Jewish population of Moscow and Russia. Moscow residents are taking the gloves off now, being more open about Putin's Russia being a carbon copy of Hitler's Germany. So here is a Jewish-owned business in Russia somewhere, with a woman spray painting profanity and the Star of David on the building. So yes, of course, the anti-Semitism and the hatred towards any Jewish people anywhere in the world, even if whoever owns this business is not an Israeli citizen. But what about Solovyov? Solovyev, the Kremlin's top propagandist, is Jewish. And this is what Solovyev has to say.
Надеюсь, Запад заткнется со своими фразами о том, что жестокость российской армии. Хотите жестокость, смотрите, как воюет израильская армия. Хотите понять разницу между СВО и войной? Посмотрите, как сейчас израильская армия разносит, просто разносит сектор Газа. Отключив от воды, электричества, всего. Методы, которые для нас были бы
While they turned off their electricity, water, everything, these methods would be absolutely unacceptable for Russia to do. That's what you've been trying to do, Russia. By going after Ukraine's energy infrastructure, that was your objective. So no, you don't get credit for failing to do something you wanted to do anyways.
Russia is... What is wrong with Russia? All right. As someone who's personally lived through winter in Ukraine last year with no electricity, no heat, and no water on some days of the week because Russia was actively bombing our civilian infrastructure, you cannot believe anything Russia says. Like, it's insane. They literally were trying to shut off our electricity, our water. They've literally razed cities and destroyed cities. Russia is no better than what Israel has done in Gaza. And also they're just as bad as the Hamas, who went in and killed, raped, and beheaded people in Israel. Like Russia is literally the worst of both. Yet they're trying to somehow shift the blame game and say, look how bad the West is, look how mistreated we are, we're the victims. Russia, you guys insane? Like, are you really that do you really believe your own BS? Or do you just think the whole world is so stupid that they'll fall for it? And unfortunately, it seems like many people are.
So Solovyov's angle is that Israel is terrible. Look at what Israel is doing to the Gaza Strip. If Russia were to do this, we would be called evil, we would be called immoral. What fantasy world is he living in? Just look at the city of Mariupol. 95% of all buildings were destroyed by the Russian military. Unknown tens of thousands of citizens, Ukrainian citizens, were massacred when these buildings were destroyed. Russia's done the same thing to Mariupol and other towns in this war, so no, Solovyov, you don't get credits for being better than Israel because you don't target civilian buildings. These headlines just get stupid. Chechnya's Kadyrov voices support for Palestine, offers to send peacekeepers to the Gaza Strip. Sure. Russia transfers captured Ukrainian weapons to Hamas in a bid to discredit Kyiv. So, of course, Russia's going to meddle in this war. And what they're choosing to do, they've captured American equipment from Afghanistan, from Ukraine, and they've sent this to Hamas so that they can spin the narrative that Western aid to Ukraine is being sold on the black market and ending up in the hands of Hamas and terrorists. 100% this isn't true. Of course, the Russians are lying about this, but for Russia's sympathizers in the West, they are going to push this insane narrative. Wagner trained Hamas militants for attack on Israel, according to Ukrainian partisans. Yeah, that seems like something Dmitry Ukin, a Nazi, would do. Send Wagner mercenaries to Gaza in order to help train Hamas for their assault on Israel. Putin says U.S. foreign policy failure caused the Israeli-Hamas war. Why is Israel and the Palestinians fighting? And it's America's fault somehow. If only Russia was the peace guarantor of the world, if Russia's military could have 2 aircraft carriers off the coast of Israel, somehow they could end this dispute. But the final clip I want to share with you is Roman. I shared a lot of clips when he was on the front lines defending Bakhmut last winter. Roman, in late spring or early summer, sustained a head injury, and he's not been able to medically be cleared to return to his unit. So he's been focusing on recuperating and getting better. And he recently appeared at an event in Kyiv called Vladimir Putin Do F Off, organized by the British author John Sweeney. So here's a clip from Roman talking about his experience in Kramatorsk. He just happened to be at the pizza shop when it was bombed by the Russians, and this is what he had to say at this event.
I'm a sniper in storm infantry, so I saw many storm operations near Bakhmut, but this was one of the craziest things that I see in my whole military life, because you see, on the battlefield, all of us, we are volunteer soldiers from 3rd Assault Brigade, so many of us fight in Azov, and we are ready to kill and ready to die. But when you just sitting on the cafe and it happens, there were so many civilian peoples there, and it's something very horrible, because seeing death on the battlefield, it's one thing, but seeing innocent people dying and screaming under falling walls, this is something I even have 2 weeks after dead dreams about those dead people, because there were also children, and most of that was girls or women, and as for soldier, it's impossible to stand with the thoughts that you're doing nothing but must protect Ukrainian people, but civilian people, but you can't do it against rocket, against this fucking Iskander, and it's common thing that in Kramatorsk, first it's explosion from some shelling, and then air siren is start, so it's impossible to hide, and it's impossible to realize that something bad is happening. Thank you for creating some such events. Appreciate it.
Roman is still active on social media, but only on Instagram. He gives Instagram stories about what he does daily. If you want to follow him on Instagram, I'll put the link down below. That's all for this update video. Glory to the heroes, glory to Ukraine. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up. Best way to support the channel. Comments and questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, keep defending the truth. Keep defending democracy.
All right, there you have it. Jake, thank you so much for making this video, creating this information, and also for letting me share it on my channel. I think it's really valuable, and I think this is something that it would be a shame if it wasn't publicized to the world to see, to really understand not only what's happening in Israel and in Gaza, but also how it relates to what's happening in Ukraine and how Russia is involved. It's unfortunate that due to kind of YouTube's policies, when something gets flagged as 18 plus, you can't release it on your channel, not only because it's not about the ads. I think some people are gonna say Jay didn't want to publish it just because he's not making money from it. It's not that, it messes up your channel. If you publish one video that's age restricted, all your other videos in the future will be limited. They would have to go through manual checks, which take sometimes forever, and it just messes it up. So like a channel like Jake's, if he doesn't publish things, as they come out, then it becomes old news. And what I like about Jake's channel is actually he's never the first anyways. He always waits 24 or 48 hours to put information out. That way he can actually have the full story. He can formulate his thoughts. He's not just rushing to try to get that first, click. He's kind of like the MKBHD of, war YouTubers. where if you guys don't watch MKBHD, he's my other favorite channel. He does tech reviews, but he's never the first. He's never the first one to publish the new iPhone review or something. He takes his time, makes the videos well, makes his thoughts well formulated. And I appreciate that a lot more, that someone just throws out things just to get that first like viral hit. Also, big shout out to Roman for risking his life many, many times to defend Ukraine. I'm good friends with Roman. I've had him here at my house many times. And I had seen him after he got hit in Kramatorsk, and also after he came back. That wasn't his first injury. He's had many concussions in the past, and the doctors have always asked him not to go back to the front line. But he's just so passionate about defending Ukraine and his country that he's always went back. And unfortunately, the latest attack on the front line, that was the last concussion, and he's going to have to take a lot of time off to recover. But obviously, he can defend Ukraine in other ways and use his talents in other ways. About that attack in Kramatorsk, some propagandists might say, "Oh, look, Russians were right to bomb this cafe because soldiers were there." Well, guess what? Soldiers are also at Disneyland. Like, soldiers are also in supermarkets and, just like in normal places. They go to places on their day off. And in Kramatorsk, there's not that many restaurants. That pizzeria was literally the only sit-down restaurant in the whole city. And that's why soldiers would eat there. But also, civilians would eat there. Like, some girls were having their 16th or 17th birthday party there when that rocket hit. So that's why it was not a valid military target. It would literally be the same as hitting Disneyland, saying, well, there's soldiers there on their day off. It's stupid. So you can't side with Russia. You can't side with terrorists. I wish I could sign this off with a kind of a more positive message, but this may be the start of World War III, guys, because the U.S. has to defend Israel regardless of what we all might think. It's funny. I know some guys from the DOD, the Department of Defense, and they have told me that Israel's not our friends. We don't trust them. They give us really bad intel. They're very selfish, but they're the best ally in the Middle East, and we need someone in the Middle East to have a stability in the Middle East. And whether we like it or not, we need stability in the Middle East because that's where we get our energy and our oil from. And for those who want to say, well, let's just stop using oil and gas, well, we can start doing it. But unless you want to stop driving tomorrow, unless you want to stop turning on your lights, unless you want the economy to completely collapse, or unless you want to start fracking more and destroying our environment, we rely on a stable supply of oil and gas. And since we can't get it from Russia because they're starting wars, we have to get it from the Middle East. And unfortunately, Israel is our biggest ally there. The one out of all the untrustworthy possible places, that's the best one. Because if it wasn't Israel, we would have to be BFFs with Saudi Arabia, and they're worse. And what are the other options out there? Iran. So this is the way it is. Israel is our ally. We have to protect them. And to be fair, they do have the right to respond. You could argue if the methods of flattening Gaza and turning off their electricity and water and starving them out is the best or not. But that's an argument you guys can have in the comments. It's a complicated subject. I feel bad for the civilians who have died. Firstly, in Israel, because they were literally at a Dance for Peace music festival, and regardless of if Dance for Peace music festivals do anything in the world to change and create peace or not, they didn't deserve to die. It's they were there to party, do drugs, get drunk, have fun, while dancing for peace. And as ironic as it is, the Hamas terrorists attacked and killed so many of them. It's really, really insane, guys. I hope for peace, and praying for Israel, praying for Palestine doesn't work. We need to create actual diplomatic, political solutions, starting with Palestine being recognized as a separate country, but also the Hamas being outed. Like, we cannot have terrorist organizations controlling them. And I wish we can say, let's not be involved at all. And the old Johnny pre-2022 would have said, let's just not deal with it. It's not our responsibility. Like, let's just like be isolationists and just America first. But now I've realized that if we want stability in America, if we want stability in the world, somebody has to play world police, because there's crazy terrorists out there that destabilize the world. And if we aren't the number one big dogs, it's going to have to be someone else. And even though the US is far from perfect, I would trust American democracy more than China being the next superpower or someone else. And that's the way it is, guys. Thanks again to Jake. Thank you guys for watching. Leave a comment. Subscribe to Jake's channel. He has the best updates from Ukraine. He's someone I watch as soon as it comes out. Every single time. I never miss an episode. I've seen literally every episode since day one. Love you guys. Take care. See you next one.